Startup Unscripted. The questions you have with the truths you need to hear.
Help doctors get into practice the way they want to get into practice. Hashtag truth. That's why we put it out there. What we want to do is we want to bring truth to the startup game.
And now your host, Michael Dinsio.
Turing rep, and today I have one of the best here in studio. We've had some technical difficulties, but I think we're running here. But
I can see us on screen.
I think we're good. I don't know. Well, let's just keep going with this. But actually, before I introduce officially our guest today, a couple housekeeping items. We folks are moving, as you can see on your screen, for those who are YouTubers, we're moving to an all-inclusive kind of new brand called Dental Unscripted. All right. So you all are listening to me right now through Startup Unscripted, and it's that red brand. And then those of you that are like following us with acquisitions, that's Dental Acquisition Unscripted. So we have two brands. It's kind of complicated. We'd like to simplify things and get it to Dental Unscripted. And the other bonus to this idea is that we are at Next Level Consultants are going to be splashing in practice management stuff. So it's not just startup and acquisition tips and tricks, as you all are very aware. We're still going to do that. But this Dental Unscripted new brand is going to be startup, acquisition, how to run a business, front office issues, how to renegotiate your fees, maybe, all kinds of fun things. Because a lot of you guys have been following me for about 3, 4, maybe even 5 years now, and you're in ownership. So we're gonna be giving you guys some more things to consider and think about. So Paula, my partner, will be on, and Stefani and Olivia and Nicole and Deb. All the coaches at Next Level are going to contribute. So we're super excited about that. Awesome. Okay, without further ado, let's rock and roll here with this particular episode. And I'm really excited, again, back to the original idea here, and that is to interview a manufacturer. So this is equipment, guys. So as you're going through the process doing startup, you need equipment. And today I have someone from A-dec, the A-dec, in studio, Quentin. Quentin, welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Introduce yourself. Yeah.
All right, will do. So Quentin Flores. I am a A-dec territory manager out of the Seattle area. My partner, Billy Effingham, and I kind of cover Western Washington and Alaska for the company.
Alaska. Yeah. You go up there a lot?
Need to get up there more.
Okay.
Have been up there. We have some great partners that we work with up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been in dental for 15, 16 years now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I started a while back selling consumables for Horaeus Colzer.
Okay.
And then got into technology with Dentsply Sirona on the imaging side. Nice. And have had the privilege to be working for A-dec now as a territory manager for the last 3 years in this market. So I've kind of touched a lot of different areas in the dental office from a manufacturing perspective.
Got a deep bench.
Yeah. It gives me a good perspective on,
So why did you choose A-dec? With all that experience, you're like, A-dec's a knockin'. Why go into bed with A-dec?
Yeah, I mean, it's if from the manufacturing side, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah,
if you get the opportunity. So
that was a softball question.
I'd like to create a sexier story for you, but
do it. You don't got one?
No, not really. No, but it's from a manufacturing side. A-dec is still doing things in a very old-fashioned way, and what I mean by that is we're a family-run company.
Yeah,
that is fortunate enough to not have to look at things from a stock price or, make decisions based on, the ebbs and flows of being a publicly traded company.
Yeah.
Our founders, Ken and Joanne Austin, created an environment, and we're celebrating our 60th anniversary this year, where
what a powerhouse,
taking care of our customers and our business partners in the field that we get to work with every single day. Now, you're part of that family.
Yep.
Really, we're tasked as territory managers with, being that forward-facing individual for the company and just taking care of customers and taking care of people and having concern for people. So
I love it.
some of these things you've heard because you've been down to A-dec, and it's just when the opportunity came up to partner with my last partner, which was Andy Hayes, and he just recently retired after 42 years. That in itself should say something. The fact that, at 42 years, he was still trucking along and doing great things for the company. And it was just a no-brainer. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think we could go on and on about A-dec and the reputation. We can get into some of that later, but it speaks for itself. The name's just a powerhouse in the dental industry, as you all know. It's just an iconic brand in the industry, and you all know. So, hence why you're on the show. And I'm privileged to have you guys. So, but let's kind of get into some brass tack stuff. True startup unscripted style. For the listeners, it's like, okay, manufacturers. So there's some other players out there, of course. There's A-dec. And I always get the question kind of like, how does this like Henry Schein, Patterson, Benko, Burkhart, all these people that represent or can sell your stuff? I know some of those can't,
right? But
we're speaking as a generic sense here that there's a lot of other manufacturers out there and there's a lot of other dealers. And I get I just got it this week. Like, hey, can I just call A-dec and just work with them? And no, it's not how it works.
Right.
You want to break that down kind of like dummy style for all of us, because it's pretty obvious just because I've been in the industry for a while, but like, I think for the doctors, they want to understand how this kind of works.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to work with A-dec, for example, they can connect with you, but they can't buy it through you. So can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So, I appreciate the question. And I have been asked that question before too. Right?
I bet.
So it's not the first time.
No.
So we have always gone through the model of distribution. Okay. And that's from the standpoint of, some of the partners that we have in the field, took very good care of, Ken and Joanne from the start. And in return, we're very loyal to, our partners that we've done business with for a long time. So our dealers in the field, and I'll kind of keep things specific to my region because I don't know all the distributors
just
we
do
work
the best
with
you
in
can.
other parts of the country. I'm kind of tunnel visioned into the Seattle market. So when we're talking about Burkhart, Henry Schein, and Patterson,
here
locally in the Seattle market and in Alaska, we really depend on those people heavily to be, kind of help spreading the message and talking about the A-dec equipment and what A-dec can offer, to our customers and the doctors out there. But it's also, they're equally, partners in it with us. And I use the word partner. It's maybe different than your typical manufacturer distributor relationship because they're the ones really out there diagnosing our equipment, helping us when we do need to make repairs. Because, even though A-dec is amazing equipment, of course,
there's going to be some
stuff's going to break.
It's a machine.
Go wrong.
It's a machine.
And then those people are giving us feedback too. So not only our field and equipment, people, but then the technicians as well. I mean, if the
techs at like Patterson, Schein, Burkhart, Benko, all those guys.
Those individuals are giving us feedback on our equipment that, Ken Austin took very seriously.
Yeah, he
and
did.
We've made alterations to how we do things based upon, feedback from our distributors.
That's cool. So what you're saying is like, it's not just selling it, but there's a service part to it that you guys can't deliver to the client, to the doctors.
There's no
who's
way.
Listening.
There's no way. I mean, so in our territory in Seattle. So like I said, my partner's name is Billy. I'd like to think that we're above average functioning people when it comes to representing any type of equipment or product out there.
Slightly above average.
That's okay. As long as I'm slightly above average. I'm pretty realistic. there's no way we can be all over the place, right? We
Mhm.
can't be, in Bellingham 1 minute and then down in Olympia the next. There's just no way we can do that.
Folks, that's like hour drives is what he's describing there. So
I thought everyone here was familiar with Washington I-5 geography.
yes.
Yeah,
You can't be on the two separate sides of the state. You cover the whole state of Alaska and Washington. So you can't be in Juneau and you can't be in Seattle at the same time.
There's absolutely no way. So yeah, without, our distribution partners, we could not take as good of care of our customers as we wanted to, right? So yeah, I mean, it's more, having more, whatever you want to call it, soldiers in the field, out there being able to really just take care of customers, because that's what it comes down to at the end. It's not we need a bigger, network of people like selling our equipment.
Yeah.
Because if we're not taking care of those customers, no one else is going to want to buy that equipment.
Totally.
Right? So it's all about just being able to take care of people better.
That makes sense
through our distribution networks.
You don't have so how many A-dec reps roughly are there, representatives ish? You
I
don't
would
have
say
to be exactly right,
probably
but
75.
So 75 people can't service the entire country of the United States.
No, and so some territories have one individual, some territories have 2, 3,
depending on market size. And all
but
that.
Compared to some other manufacturers out there, they might have less than 20 nationwide.
Oh wow!
Right, so
That's
it's pretty unique that we're still carrying such a large amount of people, in the territory manager position.
Okay, so service is the clear answer that I heard there. Taking care of you guys, if you wanted A-dec, they literally deliver A-dec locally to you with guys like Quentin who support them. So actually walk us through like what your support role then is to the dealers, because you play a really integral part to the deals here, or the opportunities, the projects here locally, right?
Yeah.
Like you're getting involved with floor plans. You and the dealer, let's just call it Shine for fun.
Okay.
You and the Shine rep are working and working and putting together a project for Dr. Smith, whatever. What is your role to the Shine rep in something like that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Dr. Smith, because I just talked to her last week. So,
I just made that up. So wait, I don't know Dr. Smith. No, I'm joking.
We'll talk later. We'll talk later. Yeah,
I think they need a consultant.
Yep. So it varies. So with a Henry Schein equipment specialist for Dr. Smith, we can be doing. We like to be as involved as possible.
Yeah.
Because believing in partnership. Because in my role, it can be as simple as helping somebody build a quote for a 411 chair, a doctor's stool, a certain delivery system. That's very surface level stuff, right? That's pretty easy. Where the job gets more fun, and I think where we have better success, is when I'm working with that equipment specialist to dive into from the start what the doctor is looking for. Like, what is their goal? Right.
Yeah.
What do they want out of practice manager or ownership? Excuse me. Is this their first practice? Obviously, we're talking startups today, but is this practice 2, practice 3? How do they like to practice? Where do they like their equipment? Understanding the workflow. What are you trying to do? Do you not want as much storage in the rooms anymore? Okay, let's factor in where that central storage is going to be. What is the budget? Starting to work with more partners, right? So like our equipment specialists, space planners, contractors. We're getting more involved, I would say, from an A-dec side into a lot of those. In our world, we call them non-traditional partners.
Yeah.
Because I think you could look 20 years ago and it was A-dec territory manager and equipment specialist.
And that was
it.
Yeah.
Right. That was it.
Yeah.
Things are evolving. People are understanding, different aspects of the dental market specifically, and that it is a really good industry to be in from a lot of different aspects.
So you guys do encourage that communication, that conversation with the doctors.
From my perspective, I think it's key.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of smart people that are getting involved in different deals.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of people that may not know as much as they need to know.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
And so figuring out who those people are is always difficult. And what I've found in my time in dental is speaking about the equipment specialists and our dealers. If there's one person or he or she is going to know the most about quarterbacking an entire project from start to finish.
Yeah.
It is still that equipment specialist.
Yes.
With combination of, they call them different titles, so I'll just call them your field rep.
Yeah.
From one of the distributors. Like that combination should have you covered all the way around from every single person that you need, right?
Got it.
So us working with them, and really it's kind of like a chameleon. Each opportunity we work, with a prospective, dentist and practice owner is going to look completely different, right?
Well,
it's never the same.
Let me ask you this question. Let's talk about a sensitive subject, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So I think we just need to talk about it because it's not that weird. But like, if I had a doctor who oftentimes has worked A-dec in their school and they're familiar with that equipment and they want A-dec. That's what they want. They know it lasts long. They know what to expect as far as quality and all the things, and they just want A-dec, right? But they don't have a relationship with the dealer. All right. So they want to talk to Shine and Patterson, let's just say. How does that work? And I don't really need to get into like, pricing, but like, how do you handle, like, is that a problem? If a doctor wanted A-dec and they oftentimes do talk to, let's just say Shine and Patterson, because you guys sell through both of those guys, right? Those companies. So how does that work? Because I think that's the question that I get is like, well, why can't I just go through Quentin instead of going through Shine? Well, they don't do that. Well, I don't really have a relationship with my Henry Shine guy or the Patterson guy. I'm just kind of, I hate to say it, but they're shopping. They're legitimately shopping. How does that play out behind the scenes? And you don't have to get too far into that, but are you offering the same price to both of them? Is that how that works?
Yeah. So from a standpoint of what A-dec offers to our distributors, there's no price difference.
Yep.
Right.
That's what I figured.
We don't do anything special with, A, B, or C.
Yep.
That we wouldn't do with X, Y, and Z.
So there you go.
It stays consistent.
So it's not like I can go to Shine and get a better A-dec price, quote unquote, or Patterson for a better price. It doesn't work that way.
It's all going to be very relatively similar from any of the dealers.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting that you bring that up because
I get that question, and I'm like, look, this is how it works, and the manufacturers offer a price, and it just is what it is.
Yeah. And I think like if someone were to ask me that question, like Quentin, like who should I work with in my market?
Yeah.
It's a tough question because, a lot of times we are Switzerland, right?
Yeah.
I can't go out there. If I'm out there recommending one over the other, I probably don't have this position, right?
They're just as much your customer as the dentist is. So that's a tough one for you.
But I would say back to who's ever listening or whoever is asking that question.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to do your own research.
That's right.
You should talk to the, different people at those distributors if you don't have a prior relationship and figure out because, this person can do so much for your practice.
That's right.
Not only from a day-to-day practice management, your supply management, but from the equipment standpoint, if you're going to embark on this journey where we were just talking, Mike, a few minutes ago, like you're going to get an $800,000 loan, right? For a startup practice. Let's say hopefully you can get that amount and you're going to go into practice ownership. This individual from whatever dealer you're going to be working with is they're in charge of a huge chunk of money for you, right?
So huge.
Huge.
In fact, I literally I have this conversation weekly, but like I literally I was talking to a doctor and he is going he's going all in with a contractor without any bids, and he's going all in on his people without any kind of like budgeting kind of check, right? And that's fine. And it's all good. But my comment was simple. It's like, hey, there's two categories that chew up 85%, if not maybe 90, it's probably 85% of the total budget. The total budget of whatever you're getting from Bank of America, Huntington, Provide, name whatever bank, however much they give you, construction and equipment is 85% of it. So if you're not looking at just those two categories, you could be leaving some money on the table. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think,
but it is about service though.
It is about service.
And that's why I wanted you to say that the price is the same. Because it is. It is.
Price is important. I mean, obviously, when we're talking startups, cash flow is king,
It
right?
is.
If you don't have cash, you can't move forward with a project. If one portion of the budget takes too much up, the other portions of the practice are going to suffer, right, in some way or the other. But I think from going back to that trust factor and developing a relationship, because what I'm starting to hear a little bit too much of,
Mhm.
and I'm
And
not
this
sure,
could be market related. Who knows?
could be market
Dependent.
related,
Sorry, market dependent. Yeah.
but is people will say, or they don't have as much trust in their dealer,
Mm-hmm.
and
Absolutely.
I
That's
think
happening.
it's also on that doctor or whoever that person is to develop that relationship, because I'm telling you that our distribution partners, they are the best single source of information, really, when you're doing a startup. They have done so much of it. And think about it this way too. So when you look at, okay, if there's a lot of good people involved now, we've already listed some of them, from real estate agents to contractors,
architects,
consultants.
consultants.
I would say from the standpoint of, if you look at all those people and look at how long the team, but look at those individuals and see how long they're attached to that practice throughout the first year, second year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years career. So some of those individuals, you don't have to go through all of them, but when their portion of the project is done,
Yes,
they're out.
They're out.
Right?
That's right.
And so, but you think about, once again, my market, Burkhart, Henry Schein Patterson. It's their job to not only help you with practice startup and practice management, but they're the people that are coming in on a monthly or every other week basis. So whatever they're helping you with, there's no running from that, right? They're back in there making sure that the advice they gave you, the equipment they recommended,
and if the equipment goes down or something was installed wrong or whatever, they got to deal with it.
They got to deal with it. So I mean, I think if there is anyone to trust in this relationship, it's the dealers, because they have more invested into the success of your practice than anybody else.
I agree. I think that's right. I think it is. I think that is the conversation, and that is like the that's the thing. That's the thing to really like focus on, is that those dealers are your partners. But they also have to earn your business, and they have to put in the work and show you the options and go through the pricing and actually, let's pivot. I'd like to pivot this conversation because part of the dealer's value to the project and doctor for the relationship to you is getting the right equipment for the right price that also cash flows your business. And so it's like that waterfall, right?
Yeah.
And we've been spending a lot of time here locally, excuse me, and figuring out how to get some of the best equipment, which I believe A-dec's up there. And not because you're in the room, but it's the facts.
Appreciate that.
But still be able to not literally blow the budget. We just talked about 85%. We can't go over 100%.
Yeah.
We got to stay within 100% of what the bank's lending. And so how do you make it work? And part of the dealer's job is helping you and me and the doctor figure out how to make the budget work, right? And what are you seeing in your world where startups can afford your product? And what are some of those things? Because I don't think people really know that there's 3 levels of equipment value. I don't think people know that. I don't think that's a common thing unless you've gone through the process.
Yeah.
Most of my startups don't even know there's a 3-level deal.
Yeah, it's interesting because,
explain what I mean, because I don't.
So what Mike's referring to is that, at A-dec, we have 3 different dental chairs. We actually just introduced a 4th specialty chair for ortho and pedo.
Oh, I knew that. There's 4.
But we have a 511, 411, and 311. And the pricing varies between each of them. And, it's important to note that the quality and the ROI in terms of ownership doesn't change. There's just obviously options. It's no different than levels of car.
That's right.
Right. If you buy, I hate car analogies, but they're so simple
There,
sometimes.
it's easy to understand. Yeah.
If you buy a Toyota, it doesn't matter what model of Toyota you buy, the level of consistency
Is there?
and the reliability is there.
I drive a Lexus,
Right.
and that's a Toyota.
That's my wife does too. So I understand that, and that's
You saying I drive a girl car? Is that what you're trying to say?
you went there, Mike. You went there.
I'm a
We
Lexus
could have
guy.
just moved along.
What can I say? I'm a Lexus guy.
Yeah. So, but do we sell as much 311 chair as 411 and 511? We don't, but it's because we're kind of a creature of our own success.
Yes.
Is where we've done such a good job of when someone looks at a 311 chair, but then sees the price difference,
Yes.
they go to a 411.
Okay.
But I would have no problem putting one of our 311s into anyone's practice who's listening, who I meet in person.
High end or low end practice?
Doesn't matter.
It's a great chair.
I would put that into if a family member, my sister was starting a dental practice and that was what fit her budget, I'd have no problem putting that chair in there. So, we do have the varying levels, but to your point, I would say like 2 years ago, even because I've been with A-dec 3 years, like I looked at our market specifically, and without going into details, it's nice being closer to A-dec, which is down in Newberg, Oregon, wine country, for any of you that are looking for an awesome trip to go look at dental equipment, but also, have a little fun at the same time.
Everybody's been going to the other one. All my clients are going to what's the deal?
Nashville.
Newberg's the place. Man.
Nashville, yes.
Nashville's cool, but it's not Newberg, Oregon, man.
No.
I've never been to Nashville, by the way.
I've been there once for our kickoff. Awesome facility. But you don't get to, in my opinion, you don't experience full A-dec, because what makes A-dec special is the people and seeing how the dental equipment is made. And you can see that in Nashville in a 15-minute video. So don't worry, I'm not knocking it for anyone. Like, it's amazing. But for me, it's a no-brainer.
So what you're saying is, because I've never been to Nashville, and you're right, whenever I've gone to the A-dec tour, it's happened multiple times, and you took Paula and I not too long ago, my partner, and we got to see the whole thing, man. And people are the difference maker. So you're trying to tell me in Nashville, you don't get that feel. And that's a huge part of the tour.
There's no, you can't replicate the, seeing how the actual chair is made. Now, don't get me wrong. Like you said, we have a lot of people going to Nashville, and it's not like the experience, but my partner used to say, if you're a dentist or you're in the dental industry at one point in your career, make a chance, take a trip to A-dec, because it'd be like if you're a big car person and you get to go to any of the big manufacturing sites, whether it be, you're in Italy,
Boeing.
You go to see Ferrari,
here in Seattle,
you go to
Boeing.
Ford, right? Like it's that experience if that's what you're passionate about and that's what's been able to drive your success, not only, professionally, but then obviously you get to carry that into your personal life. And if it's part of related to your A-dec chair or your dental equipment, seeing the thought process behind it. And for us, it's a great example of what makes it different, because we don't hide that we are some of the most expensive equipment on the market. Everyone knows that, right? Like everyone knows quality, everyone knows reliability, ergonomics with A-dec, but they also know we're expensive. But that's something that, some companies might shy away from. But we fully embrace it, with those reasons. And going back to, I think, where you started the question about startups and A-dec, a couple of years ago, it was specifically in my market. I was like, wow, we're not doing a lot of startups. And great market share. But, when I was just like seeing the deals that we are involved with, a lot of startups were not part of that. And I think A-dec has done a tremendous job from the top down, looking at where our opportunities as a company to grow have been. And
startup was one of those.
Startup was probably one of the main areas that we needed to.
Hence why you're on the show. Is that?
Yes. Yeah. They were like, you're going to go do this podcast. I was like, I don't want to. I have a face for radio, but they're like, you're going to do this. And
face for radio.
So
it hasn't hurt me, and I got face radio. So.
Fair enough. Yeah, we're not winning any beauty pageants in this room.
No.
But we've come out with a lot of programs and ways to look at how can we help doctors, because you're right. Coming out of school, I think we looked at it, and this is not from a standpoint. I'm not trying to say this as we're trying to be like boastful or things like that or brag, but like when you're using A-dec equipment in your university, a lot of people want to continue using that product.
That's
that
what they're used to.
right?
That's what they're comfortable with.
And, or, it does suck, frankly, when, you go into practice ownership and you're like, this is what I want, but I can't get that. And I have to practice so many years and make so much money before I can actually get that product. So,
100%, yeah.
I think we looked at it from a standpoint and wanted to come up with programs that could help us target that.
Okay.
So, we can go into that now, we can go to it later, but like we're starting to work with a lot more startups now than we did. Let's just call around number 5 years ago.
And I'm seeing that. So I'll back that up. I gotta be, can I be honest? It's my program.
It's your show, man.
A-dec, and you actually probably know this. When you got the job, you were probably like, Mike's not a big fan of A-dec. You probably got that feedback. It's not true. It's not that I wasn't a big fan. I just wasn't a fan of the price.
Sure.
Of course, I drive a Lexus. Everybody wants to drive the Lexus, but they could only afford the Toyota. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Toyota's a freaking awesome car. In fact, I know that my car is a Toyota with a stupid L on it. I know that. It's the same car. It's a great car, whatever. But it's what I want with Lexus. But I couldn't always afford a Lexus. And so my startups, folks, you guys, future startups, budget has to be a very important thing to you. There's a lot of issues down the pipe if you don't focus on that, right? But it just didn't pencil, Quentin.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to. And so but you're probably like, oh wow, like Mike is part of it, and you're probably thinking it's because you're charming self and it's because of the relationship.
All me, baby.
But actually it's really what your company and you and all the A-dec crew has done.
Yeah.
And you guys have made it more affordable. And that goes for equipment, core equipment, to cabinetry, to the whole 9 yards. So you have listened, you guys have gone down that path. Do you want to highlight anything there?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it started, for us expanding. So what we call it is a Smart Start program, right? So really what it's designed for is doctors that are within the first 2 years of practice ownership, right? And it doesn't matter that what your age is if you go out into a DSO for 10 years and then you jump out into private practice ownership, you're still in that Smart Start program within that first 2 years.
Yep.
Right. And so we looked at that, and what we initially were doing with that program is we're passing on, we have different discount tiers depending on, the size of a purchase, through your distributor. And I'm not going to go into those details, but essentially you can max that out. And so what we do with our Smart Start program is we pass along that biggest discount that we can right off the bat, which equates to about 25% off our retail. Right. Okay. And so that was a huge start, but we had good traction
off
there.
Your retail price,
off our retail price
that you're passing on to the dealer, basically.
Yes, that's right. And so I don't talk official pricing a lot because that's not my role.
Not expecting you to.
In this whole, that's not, what is it? Wheel in the cog in the wheel type of thing. Yeah. That's not what I do. That's what our distributors do, is they talk the price of the equipment. But where it really changed is A-dec got into mechanical room. So we have mechanical room products. So it's called Quiet Core Plus. And so what we added to that program a little while back is that, of course, when you're doing a startup, you need a vacuum and compressor. It's actually one of the most important pieces of equipment in your practice that you never really think about, except when it goes down. And so we did a program where added to the Smart Start, where if you purchase a vacuum, you get a free compressor. Game changer in itself.
Game changer.
Won't go into any names of our competitors, but it put us into price ranges with certain companies that people were like double checking quotes, being like, how is this possible?
Yeah. And I was one of those, actually.
Yes.
Because probably about 18 months ago, I'm looking at quotes and being like, and it had cabinetry and it had all the mechanicals and the core equipment. It's all there. And I'm like, no, this can't be right.
Yeah.
It literally was like that. So now clients can have A-dec quality and afford to get into practice as a startup. It's it's a fact.
It's a fact. And not only, did we have the mechanical, then we came out with a new additional line of furniture and cabinetry that is a little bit more cost effective. Yeah, you lose some of the features of our full Inspire line, but for a startup, like when we're buying our first house or first car, you don't always get what you want.
That's
but
right.
There's still ways to
My
make
first
whatever.
Lexus wasn't as nice as the Lexus I drive now, by the way. But it was a Lexus.
I'll need to see a picture of that. Yeah.
It was like the starter Lexus.
I've jumped around to too
It's
many
the
brands,
311.
so I haven't stayed consistent to one brand. But So we did that. So that was a huge component of that, right? In cabinetry, because it just caveat what we kind of require is chair, delivery, light, and a 12 o'clock unit to be part of the program.
Yep.
Like the compressor and vacuum is optional. That's something you can or can't take advantage of. If you already have if you bought an existing space and it has mechanical room, then great. Continue using it if it still
Quentin,
works.
I'm just going to go on record. A lot of my clients don't do lights anymore.
Yep.
So what's the solution there? Because you said it had to be in there.
Yeah. So
because they're loops. They're doing loops now, dude.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
I would say when it comes to lights, we'll have a conversation. I don't want to get too into the details of
but there's a solution to this.
There can be solutions, but I'd say the biggest solution.
It's a trend. I can't stop it. It's just is what it is.
So a loop company will tell you, because we believe in loops. I would never tell you or anyone. You look at me cross-eyed if I'm like, don't use loop lights. Yeah. You absolutely should. But you should understand the relationship of those loop lights with an overhead light, with your room lighting and how that has an impact. And everyone
and your assistant.
Yes.
They play a part too.
I mean, and keeping and when you're going into practice ownership, Mike will tell you, anyone will tell you, keeping your staff, happy. And not having that staff turnover, like that should be a consideration. Not saying it's the most important part, but no one wants to be turning over staff. But going back to that, it's hard for if most of the startup people listening to this are, let's say, late 20s, maybe early 30s.
Yeah.
Just like with anything, it's hard to think about your body and what your body is going to be feeling and your eyes are going to be feeling. So I'm 41 and I've had perfect vision my entire life, and it's just starting to fade. And my gosh, how much of a difference that makes in certain lighting and things. So unfortunately, for some of this, you have to project out a little bit, but and that is part of the A-dec story.
Take care of your body.
We're trying to take care of this, right?
Take care of your body.
Eat
folks.
right.
Yeah, eat right.
Personal chef.
And
masseuse.
Let's not get crazy, Quentin. We can't afford that. We're starting.
We're
broke startups.
You don't argue with the body.
That's
an argument you will not win.
Yeah, that's in the 40s, and I can speak to that. It's starting to fall apart for sure.
But have a conversation with your A-dec TM. And if you're thinking about a startup and you want to look at A-dec equipment, thank you in advance for considering us. But talk to your A-dec TM locally in your market.
They'll make it happen.
There's conversations that can be had, and so. But that's kind of what we're looking at, and we're talking 2 rooms, right? So we're not, it's not a situation where it's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rooms, because the only time from my experiences, were looking at it that way was during COVID, when scarcity brought demand. So it's like, okay, I need these 5 chairs now, because I don't know if I start with 2, I have no idea when I can get 3, 4, and 5.
I'm glad you said that, because you're right. Like there was a day. Maybe you guys remember this, maybe you don't, but during COVID, there was like ships out in the base not delivering stuff, right? Like computer chips, and nobody, there was a supply and demand issue and labor, and it was just all wacky during that time. And you're right. The turnaround on a chair was like a year.
Yeah.
And it was like, what is happening? What's the turnaround now? Just real quick ish.
I mean, we're probably right now
4 months, 3 months,
probably a month and a half.
Holy crap!
I would say.
So to that point, I actually want to talk about this because in the markets that have really high construction, and we are in one of those, we're like one of the highest in the market. I help clients in other parts of the market where it's a fraction, almost half actually, in other markets where construction. And so all of this is kind of like levers. You pull on this lever, it goes up. You pull on this lever and it goes up, right? Back down. for those of you on YouTube that are seeing the hand gestures. But it all factors, right? You got to factor and put it on the budget, make sure it works. And we've had a lot of conversations about how do you make 2 operatories work for a startup. Well, as a consultant that talks to you guys and with you through opening day and scheduling, you guys are so programmed. I think I talk about this in the program. If you crush it and get 30 new patients your first month, like 30 new patients your first month, that's 2 to 3 patients max per day working a 12-day schedule. 2 to 3 patients per day. If you had 2 operatories, does that cover you for 2 to 3 patients that day? Hell yes. You're not working on a patient the whole day in one column and another patient the whole day. That's plenty.
I hope you're not.
No, that's plenty. I mean, well, maybe it's a full mouth rehab. I don't know what kind of dentistry you're doing, but the point is 2 ops actually is fine. You can start with 2 ops. And when you need that third, which is probably in 6 months, because if you see 2 to 3 patients a day, okay, in 6 months, if you reappoint those same patients, right, in 6 months, then you're going to have 4 to 5 patients in that day, right? And so 2 ops absolutely works if you have to. Anything to add?
And you just, I think, from a budgetary perspective, because, how I try to operate is, and we haven't been working together for half a decade, Mike, but I'm very realistic, right? Do what your budget can dictate, but know that like the program, our Smart Start program, you have it for 2 years.
The pricing.
And
that's where I was going to go is
so if you want, if say you don't need that additional chairs plural for a year and a half,
hold off.
Add them in a year and a half.
Yep.
Right.
And the turnaround's not an issue.
Turnaround won't be an issue. And that's the thing is like, we understand. So, without going into the details, we'll get you the equipment you need within that discount range. And that's something we were very close with, once again, the distributors on letting them, communicating, hey, when, so it's not something you throw in your calendar and be like, oh gosh, 2026, October 13th or whatever.
I got to order my third chair.
Yeah. That's you have so much going on as owning your practice and to worry about. And so like part of that program, but part of, A-dec as a whole is, and why we kind of classify some of our stuff into the core equipment category is when you're dealing with patients, when you're dealing with billing, insurance, and your own employees, running a business, which I think, sometimes when you're going through school, you don't realize as a dentist that you will be running a business and you're not going to be operating in this little oral cavity, all day. You're running a business and practice. The equipment, the core equipment that's driving your ROI should not be something you think about every day.
Yeah.
Like you should love the investment that you made, but if you're thinking about your A-dec chair every day, there's a problem.
Yeah.
It really should be something you don't have to think about because you hop in, it works, your body feels good at the end of the day.
Yeah. And
because, the amount of, if you have downtime, at minimum, you're going to lose $1,500 a day if you can't do any sort of dentistry out of an operatory. Right. So just should work.
I love it.
Just should work.
Well, we've kind of come to our place here. We're a few minutes in. And the big takeaways for me are, A-dec quality, startup price, what that relationship between you and the dealer looks like, pricing, the pricing questions and concerns, the service level that you can get from a guy like you in the field, all good things. Any last minute kind of like comments that you really wanted to tell everybody today? Don't feel the need or pressure, but anything you want to add, and we'll close this baby down.
Yeah, I think with being in dental for such a long time, it's for those of you that are listening, and if anyone's listening that's not involved in dental, you need to find a new hobby, by the way. So those of you that are in dental, right, this is an awesome industry.
Yeah.
It's funny because on the manufacturing side, you'll see people hop around to different jobs and stuff like that. People don't want to leave because whether you're a dentist, you're an assistant, you're a practice management, or obviously, and then on the manufacturing side or sales side, it's an awesome industry to be in.
Yeah.
For the most part, it's recession proof. I know we go through ups and downs with elections and different things, but for those of you listening that are thinking about starting a project, you've picked something where the failure rate is super minimal.
It's true.
No one fails. I don't want to say no one, because you can get yourself into some trouble, but for the most part,
Equipping 6 ops right at the gate could be one of those.
That could be a problem unless you have some family backing, which
Right, but you're not defaulting if you have family backing. But yeah.
So you've picked an industry where you are going to do well in. And when you think about it, some people can go into their profession right out of undergrad or something like that. The amount of time you have invested into becoming a dentist is tremendous, right?
Agreed.
So I think any decision that you make, you should put some serious thought into it, and you should demand the best out of the equipment that you're looking to get, but also the people that you're working with, right? I mean, no one likes high maintenance people to work with, but like if I were in your position, I would demand from any of us, right, that you're getting what you need, because these are big investments that you're making. But just know, if you have the right team behind you, which I know this is kind of the point of your podcast, you bring in all these different players with different perspectives and views, you will do really well. But then there's also a level of success that a lot of people have, and then there's a whole nother level that a certain amount of people get to, where things can get really, really good.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's
Next
level. But I mean, if you take care of your patients, just like our patients are you, and our distribution partners from an A-dec perspective, your patients are your customers and your partners that you work with. If you take care of your patients and you trust kind of the people around you, it's a great journey that you're about to embark in. And
100%.
it's I lucked my way into this industry. I had no idea that even there were dental sales reps, when I was 25 years old. And I'm very, very thankful, because I think I'll be doing this hopefully for a long time. I don't see you doing anything else.
I think that's a great note to end on. And we're appreciative that you're on, that A-dec could represent on the program.
Of course,
folks. If you have any questions, as always, below is going to be Quentin's information and any information that he wants to pass on to my marketing team to provide to you all. But if you're interested in having a relationship with A-dec and you're doing a startup or any project for that matter, I think it's worth it, especially with the programs that they've put together. So Quentin, thanks again for being on the program, man.
Of course. Thanks for listening, whoever did, and appreciate the invite, man.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks again. And remember, jump over, subscribe to Dental Unscripted, new brand. You can see the picture of it right there. It's blue and turquoise color, Dental Unscripted. Go subscribe so that when we switch over, you won't miss a beat or an episode. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks again for always listening and being a part of the program. Bye.
Later.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another truth-filled episode of Startup Uncensored. Check out Startup Uncensored on Facebook and YouTube. Click like, subscribe, and interact